Section 3 of Weird Tales Double Feature, The Death Pit and In Cashla's Garden, by Lillian Schisgall. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Read by Ben Tucker. The Death Pit, Chapter 3, The Well. The knowledge of the horrible thing he had done left Timothy Cruz dumbstruck. Stupidly, he stared from the motionless body to his wife. His mouth, smarting and swollen from the blows which had been stormed upon it, formed the word, "Dead." She nodded, her expression of terror as fixed as the leer of a gargoyle. She was still kneeling beside the inanimate form, but her hand had sprung away from the silent heart. Timothy glanced around uncertainly. His fists opened and closed. He was conscious of the bleakness of the chamber, of the incessant rain pattering on the window, of the weird light on his son's face. He shuddered, and his hands smoothed his ruffled hair. "Dead," he repeated, as though he were endeavoring to convince himself that such a thing was possible. "He's dead." Slowly he moved away. He found himself beside Gilbert's bed, and he sat limply upon the chair. The boy was watching him with curious intensity. Something akin to pride covered Gilbert's countenance. Very softly, he said again, "You killed him, Pop. You did it." Timothy's two huge hands were clasped in his lap. He murmured, "If only you hadn't babbled, son. If only you hadn't babbled." "He ain't responsible, Tim," stammered Agatha, rising to her gaunt height. She stepped away from the body, meanwhile speaking. "He ain't meaning to do anything wrong. The boy's delirious, out of his head." No," whispered Timothy Cruz, and a strange tenderness stole into his tones. "It ain't your fault, son. It's the fever." He did an unusual thing. He leaned forward awkwardly and kissed the burning cheeks of his son. There were times, rare perhaps, when Cruz forgot his swaggering bravado. Then sentiment mastered him for an instant as it was doing now. But the spell always disappeared at once. After it, his love for Gilbert or for Agatha was displayed by gruffness. Impetuously he rose, glared at the body of Dr. Philemon. "What are we going to do with that?" he rasped. Agatha stood beside him, and strangely it was she who assumed control of the situation. She who had become calm and who was scheming. She who gave orders. Her tone admirably steady, she said, "I've just been thinking of it, Tim. They'll be around in the morning, everybody, to look for him. I suppose his wife knows he came here." Yes, what are we going to do?" A spasm of fear gripped him. His great figure shook visibly as he chattered. "They'll take me, and then I'm done for. Murder. You realize what I done, Agatha? Murder. If they get me." "They ain't going to get you," said his wife, with imperturbable assurance. "They ain't?" The words quivered. "What can I do?" "You'll do what I say, and we'll be safe." His features shone with the inspiration of new hope. He caught her arms and whispered with terrible tenseness, "Oh, get out. Away from here. It's only a little after 2. Before they come in the morning, I can be pretty far away. Long start, then—" "Tim," she interrupted his suggestion with a sharpness that cut into him. Her lips curled back in an ugly sneer, and she pulled her arms from his grasp. "What are you saying?" she hissed. "Run away? Leave me here alone with Gil, and Gil's sick? Alone with that thing on the floor? What are you saying, Tim?" He gulped helplessly, understanding the cowardice of the suggestion. Avoiding her accusing gaze, he muttered, "What else can I do? You don't want 'em to get me, do you?" "No, I told you they ain't going to get you, if you listen to me. Are you quiet enough to listen now?" He nodded like a schoolboy being chided. "Nobody," she said decisively, "is going to hear about this." "But how?" "Listen to me, you fool. When I say nobody will know what you did, I mean it." "How are you going to stop them from knowing? They'll see that." His shaking finger pointed at the corpse. Now the little pool of blood had grown to an appallingly large smudge, and was still growing. Timothy looked away, a dreadful revulsion sickening him. But his wife was becoming steadily calmer. She went on. "Nobody's going to see that thing. We're going to hide it." Hide it? From the bed came Gilbert's shrill repetition. You're going to hide the doctor, Mom? Yes, hide him. Hide him where no one will ever find his body. In his anxiety, Timothy was actually cringing before her. Where? He asked tremulously. Agatha's deep voice was lowered. Her eyes narrowed. In the well, she said. The well? Yes, the dry well. You're going to fill the thing up with dirt, aren't you? It's no good anymore. I know, but... But nothing, Tim. That's going to be the doctor's grave, that well. We'll throw him into it tonight. Now, you'll carry him out. And then we'll put the boards over it. No one will find him. After they go away, or better, after a couple of days, we'll fill it in as we were going to do. No one will be the wiser. Had he found the courage to do such a thing, Timothy would have hugged his wife. Her plan was beyond reproach. The old well in the yard, long since dry, offered an ideal tomb, an ideal place of concealment. No one would search for the doctor's body there, especially after it would be filled. The well... You're a good girl, Agatha, he murmured. She did not answer, but from Gilbert came a gleeful exclamation. The well! Hide the doctor in the well, Mom. That'll be fine. Uneasily, Timothy glanced down at the body. The blood, Agatha, he stammered. They'll see it. She looked at the fearful stain. Its dark crimson was joined by the yellow of the oil lamp, forming a queer, indescribable blot of color. Don't you worry about the blood, Tim. You take the body out to the well. I'll wash the signs away. I'll fix up the room so no one will guess. Don't worry about the stains. She wondered of a sudden why she was taking all these precautions on behalf of the man who had neglected her so cruelly during the entire 9 years of their married life. But she brushed aside the hesitancy. He was her husband. Gilbert was her son. For their sakes, she must fight the law. She could not afford to lose Timothy, and she could not bring disgrace upon the boy. She must fight. Peculiar, she told herself, was the fact that she could speak so boldly of blood and a corpse and burial. She no longer suffered from the horror of the situation. Instead, her mind was coolly planning a means of escape. Funny how the mind works under a strain. Timothy interrupted her musings. Again his voice trembled with misgivings, and again he stammered weakly. But his wife, Agatha, she knows he came here. They're bound to suspect us. A contemptuous smirk twisted her full lips. You fool. Can they prove he came here? Arrived here, I mean. Suppose we insisted he didn't arrive. We can't. His horse and buggy are outside. Energetically, Timothy sprang to the window. He stared through the streaming pane into the blackness, his nose pressed against the glass. Sure, he hissed. There it is, tied to the porch. Agatha considered. She bent her head and frowned. That horse could not remain outside. That evidence, too, must be destroyed. All evidence must be destroyed. They must find a perfect alibi, a story that would convince the villagers. For a long time she remained motionless, gazing with listless eyes at the floor. But not at that part of the floor on which the dreadful thing lay. Timothy, quaking and baffled, stood by the window. He watched her anxiously, watched her because he knew his life depended on her decision, watched her as a criminal watches the foreman of a jury. And after many minutes, she spoke, quietly, decisively. Very well, she said. We'll change our story. Tim, after you get that thing into the well, you're going to get into that buggy and drive about halfway to the doctor's house. There you can tie the horse to a tree and walk home. Drive halfway? Say, what's the idea? Just do as I say and we'll be all right. You leave the horse halfway to the doctor's house, see? Then we'll admit that he was here, that he left about 2:30. They'll find the empty buggy and, well, let them wonder about the mystery of what happened to the man. He'll just sort of disappear, see? We won't know anything about what happened to him after he left. His buggy halfway home will show that he started away from us. Again, Timothy Cruz experienced a surge of admiration for his wife. He had never suspected that she could behave so sensibly, so tranquilly under trying circumstances. But an inherent sulkiness and shyness stilled him. He did not express his thoughts. It's a good thing, Agatha continued, that it's raining.
Your tracks around the buggy and from the buggy home and around the well, they'll all be washed away."
"That's right. Never thought of that."
"You haven't thought of anything yet," she answered somewhat bitterly. "There's something else, too. Look in the buggy, if you can find some sort of doctor's kit. I guess it ought to be there. Take out a bottle of some medicine. Proof that he visited us, just to make our story true."
At this evidence of keen scheming, Timothy could no longer suppress a word of praise. He rubbed his hands, shifted his weight from one foot to another, and declared, "Agatha, you're all right."
"Thanks," she replied dryly. "Now, let's get busy. Take him out."
It was a gruesome duty, one which was repellent even to Timothy, but he stiffened himself in grim determination and bent to the corpse. And as his hands touched the still warm body, he abruptly paused, for Gilbert, almost forgotten in the excitement of planning safety, called,
"Throw him in the well, Pop! Throw him in the well!"
Sudden frenzy in his eyes, Timothy glanced up at his wife, rigid and ominous. Her hands were clasped, her face was hard. She stood as stolid as a sphinx watching him. "Say," he whispered, "we can't tell when the kid is in delirium or when he's all right. Suppose he blabbers to the people about this, same as he blabbered to the doctor. Suppose—" Agatha scowled in concern. The weird illumination cast black shadows under her drawn brows.
"First good thing you thought of," she muttered. "We've got to be careful. Can't give the boy a chance to blabber. We...
She stopped pondering, but she had trained her mind to overcome obstacles in the path of their safety, and it was not long before she decided on a means of guarding themselves from Gilbert's delirium.
"We'll put the boy upstairs," she said curtly. "It'll be harder to hear him there, and we'll say he's got something contagious, scarlet fever. We can even put a sign on the door. You'll make a sign, Tim. Scarlet fever. We'll tell him the doctor said no one was to go into the house. That'll keep him away from Gil. We'll answer all questions outside, understand?"
Cruz actually smiled in glee. "Where do you get all these ideas?" he asked fervently.
"Not from you. Now get busy with that. I want to wash the stains."
With savage control of his emotions, Timothy applied himself to the task. Into the well in the yard he dropped the huge body of Dr. Philemon, and when he heard it thud against the rocks 50 feet underground, he felt faint and dizzy. He dropped the doctor's hat and coat and muffler into the pit, kicked its covering of boards into place, and rushed back through the rain to the house. He fell upon a chair, buried his head in his hands, and sat moaning and swaying. "It was terrible," he told Agatha. "That sound when he hit the bottom."
"Forget it. Drive that buggy away."
She was scrubbing the floor as easily as though she were merely erasing blots of mud. Her angular figure bent to the work, moving back and forth rhythmically with each scratch of the brush. And presently Timothy regained sufficient strength to begin his journey through the storm. It was miserably chilly as he drove down the road, and he hunched his shoulders while the rain splashed against his face. He passed the dark house of the Drakes, a few other homes, and finally he reached a desolate spot where he tied the horse to a tree. After that he trudged home, feeling as if he had removed an unbearable weight from his soul. The dim light in his window promised no cheer. Rather, it gleamed with malicious foreboding. It lured, as the eyes of a snake lure. He moved toward it through the penetrating rain, and his heart beat furiously. When he entered the door, he saw Agatha sitting by the bedside, her bony hand on Gilbert's forehead. She turned to Timothy in tremulous concern.
"We'd better put him upstairs," she said softly. "Soon as I got through cleaning the room, he started saying something like a song he learned in school. A crazy thing. He was delirious again. We'd better put him upstairs."
"What was he saying?" demanded Tim, throwing his wet coat on the once more upright table. In answer to his query, Gilbert stirred. He squirmed his mouth open, and hysterically he began chanting a horrible parody of a song he had been taught. His eyes glared at the yellow lamp, and he sang, "The doctor's in the well, the doctor's in the well. I own the cherry-o, the doctor's in the well." End of The Death Pit, Chapter 3.